You are currently the only person in this conference.
That thing. That's great. Let's upload.
Hi Paul, how's it going? I'm just in here just to make sure, just helping facilitate. If you need me for anything.
Oh, hi, Shane. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, it's coming through fine.
Great. No, everything looks good. I've uploaded the slides as you see. I was going to do desktop sharing, but it seems a little bit touch and go, so I just put all the demo I was going to do on slide. So hopefully that'll streamline things a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That'd be cool.
Great. Everything's all set, I think, for my part. When it starts, will you or someone be just doing a little intro, or do I just start straight off at 8 or whatever I want?
Yeah, no, I'll give you an introduction. So in about, just under 20 minutes. Yeah.
Sure. That sounds fine. We can start a few minutes late if it helps to get a few more people, whatever you think is best.
Yeah, I just noticed the past few sessions, people have kind of been coming in late. So yeah, maybe 1 minute past, 2 minute past or something. Yeah.
Sure. Sounds good. Thanks a lot.
No worries. I'll be hanging around till then, so if you need anything, just yell out.
Perfect. Thanks.
Hey, Paul, all ready to go? Should we get started?
Okay, that's great. Can you hear my audio, Shane?
Yep, I can hear it. Cool. And all right. Let me just say welcome everybody to this session. And in this session we've got Paul. Paul Hibbitts just presenting about Built with Bootstrap. And so I'm actually really looking forward to this, just seeing how the new Bootstrap themes and things work. And yeah, and and I guess I should say thank you very much for giving up your time too, Paul. Much appreciated that you'd come and do this presentation. And I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Shane. It's my pleasure. It's actually my first iMoot, both as an attendee and presenter, and it's been fantastic so far. So kudos to everyone involved for that, for sure. So my name, of course, is Paul Hibbitts, and I want to thank you for joining me in today's session. Basically, just a little bit about my background. I'm an interaction designer in Vancouver, Canada, and also an educator. And I've been teaching UI design to various universities and colleges around town. And really, that's how I'm ending up here today. It's because I started using Moodle and being able to use it in a more mobile way for a class of mine. And that's really what I'm going to start sharing with you as we go through materials. So I've got 4 main topics that I'd like to share with you. We're going to do a brief kind of overview of blended mobile learning. Then I'm going to share with you some of the key design approaches that I used myself in using Moodle to deliver mobile learning. And I also deliver mobile learning using WordPress, but there you go. And I'll give you a little bit, so we're getting a little echo on the audio. Let me see if I can do anything here for you. Put up your hand, please. So is mobile learning a part of your education strategy currently? You can click on the little hand icon, I think, on the left-hand side of the screen. Oh, okay, we got someone there. That's good to see. Great. So, in my experience and how I got into this, it is such a fantastic opportunity for us to engage our students more and help them with their overall learning experience. And it really is the most exciting thing I've gotten involved in for the last while for sure. So that's great to see that it's on the map for some of you. So let me talk a little bit about blended mobile learning. So first of all, mobile is really amazing in terms of how much steam it's being picked up. And really, it's estimated that by 2014, mobile users will overtake desktop users. And some are thinking even this year will be the year that happens. So that's a pretty amazing kind of growth that we've seen in mobile. And this is what I want you to take away from that. Probably for all of us here, our first web experience was on the desktop. But now, I would say this year, and I'm going to be teaching again at SFU in the fall, I would predict that we're going to be getting students whose first web experience was mobile. And so mobile for our students is the web. There is no desktop, there is no mobile. It's just the web wherever they can access it. And that's a pretty amazing kind of change for us to be experiencing. So if you look around and you do a Google on, what does mobile learning mean, there's lots of different definitions, and this is one of my favorite definitions because really it just talks about learning, right? It's just being able to learn at the time and place of your choosing. It's not about being on a small screen necessarily. It's not about even the mobility of the learner to me. It's just about whenever a person wants to learn, they have access to that learning material. So this is one of my favorite little definitions of mobile learning. Now, mobile learning is a lot more than just courses. You know, it's quite natural for all of us to think, well, I've got my students, they have a phone, and so I can deliver my course on the phone. But what I've discovered is, you know, mobile learning, for me personally, has really changed the way I look at teaching and what I try to do with my materials with my students. And, you know, fair enough, you could deliver a quote course unquote over a mobile phone, but it's really not taking advantage of it in terms of what you can do with it. So mobile learning is a whole bunch more than courses, and I'm going to be sharing with you a couple of those things in a moment. The meaning of mobile also, I think, has kind of changed over the last couple of years. You know, at first, when we started to use mobile and we were designing for mobile usage, we thought, oh, everybody would be in a rush. You know, you can't do anything longer than 1 or 2 minutes. And I think that's a false assumption. I don't know about you, but often I'll pick up my mobile device at home when I'm at, you know, on the couch or when I'm doing something. And I'm not in a rush. I actually spend a fair amount of time sometimes on my mobile device. And so being mobile does not mean being in a rush, I would say, anymore. Also, there's an opinion out there that mobile users are satisfied with less. You know, you go to a website, you get a stripped down version of that website and the infamous click here for full version or click here for desktop version. And that's a cop-out. I think we have to deliver everything that we deliver on the desktop to whatever mobile or device that our students are accessing your content with. And finally, context is king, meaning that, again, early on in mobile design, people were thinking, well, you know, you're looking for a restaurant when you're on the middle of a sidewalk and you're trying to find something and, you know, trying to kind of guess the context. And I think context is really tough to guess and tough to deduce, but we definitely can think about intent. You know, what is the intent? What is the intent of the user or the student trying to do with the mobile device at the time? So those are a couple of false mobile assumptions, I think, that I've kind of blown through, and I see the world quite differently after leaving those behind. So let me tell you a quick little story. In 2011, I had the opportunity to teach my course, my UI design course at Simon Fraser University here in Burnaby, BC. And I went up to meet the assistant dean to have a meeting in the summer to talk a little bit about the course coming up. And on that bus ride, on that one bus ride, I tell you, I saw about half the students on that bus going up to the university on their mobile devices. And, you know, it just hit me like a bag of bricks, right? It's like, what a tremendous opportunity. Look at all the students. They are choosing to use their mobile devices all the time. What could I do as an instructor to improve my course, to augment my course with mobile access to learning materials? And by the way, blended learning, of course, I'm sure all of you know this, but anyway, you know, I'm talking about a combination of online materials and face-to-face instruction. And my question to myself was, you know, what could I do with mobile access to that? So I started learning about learning more myself and thinking about, you know, what would I be able to do with this mobile access to my materials? And I ran across this tremendously helpful structure by Bob Mosier and Conrad Gottfredson called the 5 Moments of Learning Need. I'd love it if you could put up your hand if you've seen the 5 Moments of Learning Need structure before. Put up your hand, please. Well, just like yourselves, I had never seen this until I got into mobile learning. And it really helped me kind of think about the different ways and different times people learn. And, you know, look, when learning material for the first time and wanting to learn more, often formal learning is a very effective approach. But when you're trying to remember and apply that information, or when things change, and of course, you know, nothing ever changes technology, so there you go, or when something goes wrong, informal learning is really the style of learning that's most effective. And for me, this was a brilliant structure. that these two folks created, and it really helped, like I say, you think about mobile learning in a different way. So I discovered, again, through my own experience, that mobile blended learning really provides more opportunities for performance support. And you know, it's interesting, when I do training for corporate clients, it's all about performance support. It's all about trying to help them improve their skills and user experience design. But I didn't really think about my instruction, to be honest, at the university in terms of performance support sometimes. But now through blended mobile learning, I definitely look at it that way. So performance support opportunities are increased, social networking, social learning networks, and communication between students. Again, they've got their devices all the time. It's a fantastic opportunity. And informal learning, as I was talking about, kind of learning on your own, just like we're all doing here today, and the last couple of days at the iMoot. So that's a little brief overview of mobile blended learning. And now I'd like to share with you some of my design approaches and tools that I used to create what I call a mobile course companion. And I'll be giving you a demo of this shortly, which was created in Moodle and also using the Twitter Bootstrap theme. So what are some of my key design approaches? Probably some of you may have heard the term mobile first. Luke Wroblewski wrote a book called Mobile First, I think around 2011. Feel free to correct me if anyone knows otherwise, but I think around then. And in that book, he really highlighted the fact that mobile gives us great opportunities because of its tremendous growth. Mobile also presents some significant design challenges because of the constraints designing for mobile screens, and how the capabilities of mobile devices really can nurture innovation. And even now in 2013, mobile first is like a battle cry to a lot of design folks in terms of, we have to design this first on mobile, and then we'll kind of figure out what we're going to do in other platforms. But it's 2013 now, and the world definitely has changed again. And now, what exactly is mobile? With all the different device types and sizes and capabilities, it's actually even harder than ever to define mobile. A gentleman named Kevin Powell actually came up with an alternative battle cry, which I think is a fantastic battle cry, and his slogan was experience first. So regardless if it's mobile or not, as instructors and designers, if we think about experience first, what kind of experience do we want to provide to our students? That is a key point. I noticed, by the way, in the chat window, someone mentioned responsive design, and totally, responsive design is actually something we're going to look at in a little while, and I believe it is one of the key tools in our toolkit to kind of support this world of such diverse devices getting everything to our students. So mobile. Actually, there's another way I'd like you to think about mobile, and particularly for mobile learning, and that's close at hand. So whatever is close at hand for the student to access their materials, to communicate with their classmates and instructors, that is a way to look at mobile as well, close at hand. Another key design approach that I took creating my mobile course companion was user-centered design. Basically, this is a very well-known traditional kind of process in user experience design world, and I'm sure some of you recognize that, wow, it kind of even looks in a way like instructional design, and I often relate the instructional design process I go through with user-centered design. But the biggest thing I want you to take away from this process is iteration. The fact that usually our first design is not as good as we all like to think, and that we have to continually iterate and try that out with our students and improve it. And so that was a technique that I used a lot during the creation of my mobile course companion as well. Some of you may have heard the term wireframing. Wireframing is when you create black and white mock-ups of your designs. And you know what? For the past 15 years, in the desktop world that we were in, wireframing was a great way to visualize our user interfaces and to get something out there to actually have people look at and even try out with paper-based prototyping. But now, because all the devices are so different in their capabilities and also in their screen sizes and things like that, and are they touch or not touch, and that's not really possible anymore. So I found I would prototype my designs actually write in WordPress or Moodle and kind of get a sense of, is it working? And in other words, I prototype a page and I look at it on my Android smartphone, and then I look at it on my Nexus 7 tablet, and then I look at it on my iPad, and then maybe a laptop. So I always go through and create online and then actually kind of see how that works out with different devices. Anybody out there know the story of this piece of wood? Any old school internet people out there from the early 1990s? Okay, so this piece of wood is quite famous in a way. Jeff Hawkins, who was the main designer of the Palm Pilot, for those of you not familiar, the Palm Pilot was the precursor of the iPhone in some ways. It was a mobile organizer at the time, a very user-friendly user interface. No mobile phone connection though, but nonetheless similar in some other ways. And anyway, Jeff Hawkins was wondering, what's it like to carry around a mobile device all day? How awkward is it? What would it be like in my shirt pocket? What would it be like when I take it out to use? So he actually carved a piece of wood to be about the same kind of size and dimensions as the proposed Palm Pilot, and we'll carry it around with him and see what it was like in a shirt pocket. See how we could take it out of this pocket and start to tap on it and do a few things. So it was really a great way for him to practice immersion. And in my mobile course companion, literally, and I'm not exaggerating, I would try it out on the bus between meetings to see what's it like with one-handed operation. What's it like when, it's not ideal viewing situations. Just to kind of get a sense of what our students will experience when they access this mobile course companion. I mentioned a false assumption before about mobile, and that is mobile users are happy with less. And another design approach I was taking was whatever device my students access their course material on, they should have the same content and even the same design. So what I mean here is that the mobile version should look like a brother or sister of the desktop version, not a completely separate application with a completely separate visual appearance. I think that's too confusing in some ways for our users who go from device to device to device to device. So we want something that has all the content and the design across multiple devices. And finally, our main goal is to create a frictionless user experience. What do I mean by that? I mean that we don't want the interface to get in the way of our students. We want our students to be able to easily access our course sites and our course materials and information that we provide for them in their discussion areas. We don't want them to be having to trip up over any kind of interface. So we want a frictionless user experience for our students. So those were some of the key design approaches that I took when creating the mobile course companion. And my preferred mobile or multi-device, if you will, really delivery tool of choice is, and you know this already, is Twitter Bootstrap. Now, I was using Twitter Bootstrap earlier with another CMS, WordPress, and then when I started to get involved in Moodle, I was fortunate enough to find out that there was a Bootstrap theme under development. So I'm going to share a little bit of information about that with you and about responsive web design. And the exciting development of Moodle 2.5, of course, and I know most of you know this, is that Moodle Bootstrap is now a base theme and it's provided right out of the box, which is great. So Twitter Bootstrap, by the way, is just really a collection of CSS files and JavaScript to kind of help make pre-made components of your website, but most importantly, it supports responsive web design. So responsive web design is the way I believe we will be most successful in supporting multiple devices for our students to access our materials. Content is universal across all devices. There's one source of content. You don't fork content for a mobile version, desktop version. It's just the same content presented differently. And I mentioned some key elements of responsive web design are media queries to determine like how big a screen am I being presented on. Fluid grid layouts, meaning as you change the size of your screen, your grid layout can adjust. And flexible images and media, so images are scaled and things like that. There's a lot more to it, but that's the essence. Where 5 years ago even we were creating designs that were fixed on like 960 pixel widths, right, and desktop interface presentation. But now we have to accommodate a much wider range of screen, and responsive web design is a great technique to do this. Here's an example, by the way. If you go to the Time news site, Time recently went to an all-responsive approach. And you can see there that these little graphics shows you the Time homepage on a laptop and an iPad and a Nexus 7, I think, or maybe an Android smartphone, an iPhone. And so this is really, I think, where we're going. And Boston Globe, by the way, was the first major site that got out the gates with responsive web design. You can look at that site. And as I say, Time magazine is also an excellent example of responsive design. So at the time I was looking at trying to utilize Moodle for a mobile course companion, I came across this theme. And this theme is mainly developed by Bass Brand. So I have to have a call out here to Bass. He's a great developer in terms of the themes that he does, and he also has been very responsive to feedback. Bass put out this Moodle Twitter Bootstrap theme, I guess it would be around last fall, with the help of a few other people. And since then, he's been involved in some other folks to integrate it into Moodle 2.5. So it's a Moodle theme like any other Moodle theme, except really it's unlike any other Moodle theme because it gives you the horsepower and flexibility of Twitter Bootstrap. And so you're able to do things like this. So here is an example of my course companion that I'll be showing you briefly. And watch as I squeeze the side of the screen, how the layout continually adjusts until finally I've actually compressed it so far, the side column content has moved down to the bottom. And if you see up here, if you can see my red dot there, we even have the menu system now with a drop-down menu. So this could be, I think, do I do one more? Yeah. So you can actually tap on that little menu icon, and we get our drop-down menu on our smaller device, and we can scroll down and see where the side panel content went. So that is a Moodle site, and that's a Moodle site using Twitter Bootstrap theme. And so you can see how it allows us to deliver our materials on a wide variety of screen sizes and devices. So very, very powerful stuff. Now, what does it look like? If you do any basic HTML, you would be able to do a lot with Twitter Bootstrap. For instance, you can see here the code that you need in order to create a nice two-column grid that will automatically scale down as the screen or the device that's viewing it is more narrow, and finally actually stack themselves one on top of each other if the device screen was really narrow. And very, very easy, user-friendly, I'd say, HTML to do that. If you want to have a colored alert box with a message at the top of the screen, this is all that you need to do, and then you put your text right there. So a very, like I say, very streamlined. There's a lot more than Twitter Bootstrap to do. You could get very complicated if you want, of course, but that gives you an idea of some of the things that you can do with fairly minimal HTML background and effort. The other great thing about Twitter Bootstrap is it's just so well supported out there. For instance, the Jetstrap site allows you to draw what kind of screens you want to deliver in Twitter using Twitter Bootstrap, and it will then allow you to download pre-constructed HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files to do that. So it's kind of like it's an environment that you can draw your interface out, and then it'll spit out the HTML and CSS and JavaScript that you need. It is fantastic. And it lets you actually kind of, how did someone do something that you saw? If you can draw it, then you can figure it out and reverse engineer it. Also, on lynda.com, they even have a full course on Twitter Bootstrap. So if you like to learn more about Bootstrap and you like the style of video lectures and things like that, you could go to lynda.com. There's lots of free videos to look at on YouTube. There's, of course, the documentation on the Twitter Bootstrap theme site, and even YouTube videos that you can look at. So there's a tremendous amount of documentation and assistance to help you get going with Bootstrap. And like I say, though, you can do some basic stuff with almost no extra work as long as you use the theme in Moodle. So one thing I'd like to mention before we stop and have a few Q&A moments, and then I'll do the second part of the presentation, is, responsive web design I do see as a key technique moving forward to support all the devices that we have to now support for our students. But it's not a strategy. It doesn't solve, the problem that you're trying to solve or opportunity to address. You have to think about that. Why would you want to deliver your Moodle materials mobile? What is the opportunity you're addressing? What problem are you trying to solve? What value are you trying to provide? That's another question. For me, personally, with my course companion for my SFU students, I want to improve their abilities to perform in class. I want them to be able to do better in their assignments. I want them to be able to learn and understand and apply the concepts better. Also, strategy is involving where is the material to be delivered and when is it to be delivered and how is it to be created. So these are big questions, and they face all of us when we're doing our course design work. But responsive web design definitely is a great method to provide our materials on a wide range of devices. All right, so let's pause and see if anybody has any questions before the second part of the session. What we've covered so far is I've tried to share with you some basic background information about blended mobile learning, looking at mobile learning being so much more than courses on a phone. It's all about performance support. It's all about social networking. It's all about informal learning. I share with you some of my key design approaches, such as more prototyping to try out designs on different devices early, and taking an experience-first approach, if you will, trying to really think about how can we deliver the best user experience for our students. I gave you a brief overview of Twitter Bootstrap. And finally, I gave you a little background about responsive web design and how it's not a strategy in itself, but it is a great technique. So if you have any questions at this point, feel free to text them in the message box, or feel free to turn on your microphone and ask them. And I'll just give you all a minute or two to see if anyone has any questions before we continue. Thank you. So I'm not technical, but would love to incorporate this into my Moodle courses. Could I manage it? Well, you know what? With Moodle 2.5, and I believe they named the theme Clean, I believe, just by putting that theme, activating that theme with your current Moodle course, you would utilize a pre-built Twitter Bootstrap theme that would allow viewing of that. Thank you. Yeah, it is clean. Will allow viewing of your course materials on a wide variety of devices, and that would be it. I mean, you don't need to do anything else to at least then make your content viewable. But what you may find out you do is that once your content is viewable on mobile devices, and as I'll show you soon, you start to think about different ways that you want your students to communicate and interact with that material and each other. So it kind of can change what you do with your Moodle site. But I think, yeah, definitely, just by trying out that theme, you can see how that works for your course materials. Are there any available for 2.3.4? Now, I know that Bass Brands is continuing development and support of the previous Bootstrap theme before it was integrated into Moodle. I know it works with 2.4. I'm sorry, I don't know if it works with 2.3.4, but I think 2.4 it does. Great, and I see that some other people here have got some other Twitter Bootstrap themes going, like Essential. Oh yes, probably on the iMoot site, correct? Is that right? I noticed, by the way, the iMoot site, correct me if I'm wrong, is using a Twitter Bootstrap-based theme, and that's a great thing to see. Great, and there's also a couple other themes that have been responsive. So this is tremendous. I mean, like I say, I can't say how much going through this direction will kind of continue to bear fruit for us, because whatever devices our students have, they'll be able to access our materials so much better. Oh, good, and there is a 2.3 version that's excellent, so you could take a look at that after. Okay. So excellent questions. Thank you very much, and comments. I'm learning as I go here too. So why don't we continue then, and we'll have a final Q&A session at the end of our session. But let's continue, and I'd like to give you a demo of what I created with Moodle and Twitter Bootstrap. So what I'm going to do is there actually is a live site that you can access and explore, and I'll give you that URL later on. But for now, I just took some screenshots to play safe, right? Because I didn't want any service to blow up during our session to try to show you stuff. So this is my mobile course companion on a desktop. Again, not all students have mobile devices, so we don't want to do anything that doesn't work on the desktop either. So this is the full mobile course companion on a desktop, so students can go freely switch between desktop and mobile devices. But let's pretend we have an iPhone, and we're going to look at that site on an iPhone. So here it is. Let's see, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you. Hopefully you can see things a bit bigger. So that, you know, it was fascinating, this whole process of creating a mobile course companion for my students. The great thing is there's a 13-week course, and starting at week 1, I had the first version prepared, and then over the next couple of weeks in particular, I got lots of feedback from my students that helped me improve their user experience of the course companion. So when they first go onto the course companion, the first thing they see is upcoming important events. So they see when the next exam is, they see when the next assignment is due. Then if they like, they can scroll down, and for each week, and it's reversed chronologically, of course, so the most current week is on top, they see a summary of the week. So they see the slides that they're supposed to review before the class begins, and they also see the readings that they're supposed to do before the class, and then, of course, they can view all the materials. Let's say they want to take a look at the slides. Let's say they're on that bus trip, and they got 20 minutes to kill. Why not kind of review the slides before class? So they can click that link. Oh, sorry, I'll show you that in a moment. Scrolling down on that page, there's also course tools. There's an online meeting booking system, which I'll show you later. There's a suggested social learning network where I try to introduce students to some experts in the field of user experience design in terms of their Twitter feeds. And of course, there's the course calendar. And at the bottom, I don't know if you noticed, but also there is a live chat that they can do with myself if I'm online, and if I'm not online, they can email me, and they can send in their questions or actually engage in a chat interactively from that. So let's go back up to the top of the screen. As I was saying a few minutes ago, if they want to, they can click on a slide module, and they'll get their slides. I use Speaker Deck, and Speaker Deck is pretty compatible with mobile devices. In fact, I can flip my device around and expand that, and so now they have access to the slides on their mobile device that are fairly readable, actually, at that point. Let's go back to our main starting page, our home page. And if they wanted to, they could click on viewing all the materials for the class. And here is their week 7 materials. I'll have to scroll down a bit. So for each week, I kind of slice up the materials. I give them their slides. I let them view the case studies that we've discussed in class, or we're planning to discuss in class, access their handouts, view additional videos, and access their readings. So this is kind of where, you know, this performance support idea comes through. Not only do I want them to see the materials that we're going to see in class, I want to give them additional learning materials that they can continue their learning either before or after or during, if they want, class as well. So this is their case studies. They can view the interfaces that we looked at and view them in more detail. They can view the handouts, of course. They can view additional videos that I put together on YouTube, and they can view their assigned readings. So all their materials for each week are accessible in that manner, where they can go through and kind of choose what they want to review and access on a weekly basis. Going back to the top of the screen and looking at the menu system, of course, they have a page with all their classes. That's pretty straightforward. No surprises there. They have a page of their assignments. Again, that's pretty straightforward. No surprise there. However, once I started with the mobile component of this, I started thinking, what could I do from a more performance support viewpoint? How could I help my students, for instance, when they're working together on their main project? Or what could I do when they're working, excuse me, when they're working on their project or assignment on their own? What could I help them achieve better? And I came up with this idea called the UX Techniques Guide. So this is really smacking at performance support here. When you go into the user experience techniques guide, you see a more learner-centered approach. You see, how can I? So this is actually structured from the student's viewpoint. How can the student, benefit from and utilize the user-centered design process? How can the student describe and categorize information about my audience? So these are kinds of things that the student has to do in my class for their assignments, their projects, and all their kind of activities. And so they can bring up this guide at any point, click on one of these items. By the way, this is an accordion component that's provided with Bootstrap, so they can click on one of these items, and now they see, oh, okay, well, there's a technique that we talked about called activity-centered design, a brief definition of that technique, and then 3 main links that will take them to basically an overview and enough material to start to use that technique on their own. So this is really where I started changing my viewpoint of my course site, where it was maybe something more to complement my face-to-face time, which is fine, but what about performance support? What can I do to help my students do better with the things that I'm trying to teach and they're trying to learn in the course? So scrolling down, you see there's various techniques here that they can use, like scenario-based design, and again, an introduction to that technique, and then more resources. So that's the UX Techniques Guide. And from my students, this was one element that got the most positive feedback. The students really liked this as a tool that they could use to enhance their ability in the course and to do better for their assignments and to learn the materials better. I also provided them with a media library, which is basically a segmented collection of YouTube videos and Vimeo channels and podcasts for them to access at a time that they want to, again, continue their learning anytime, anywhere that they choose to. I mentioned the ability to book instructor meetings. So because, again, this course site is now available on their phone, and the students, most of them have a phone with them at the university, if they want to come see me during my office hours and not wait and wants to guarantee a time slot with me, they can book a meeting with me when they are at the university already if I'm there during my office hours. So I use a tool called Time Trade, where they click on this link and they go to my Time Trade page, where they see the dates that I'm available. They can choose the date, choose their time slot, and it's added to my calendar, and then they can come by and see me at a predetermined time. So having that ability to book ad hoc instructor meetings, again, from their device when they're at the university, increases the chance that they'll actually come see me, and they don't plan out weeks ahead or days ahead, because we know that that doesn't happen. This allows them to have minimal planning and still be able to guarantee a meeting with myself. So that's a brief tour of the mobile course companion that I did using Moodle. And again, I'll give you the URL to access this little demo if you want after the session. So I'd like to wrap up and then have some further Q&A from all of you. That would be great. So to summarize, we looked at blended mobile learning and looking at performance support and social network learning and informal learning as a key component. I shared with you some of my key design approaches, including user-centered design and an experience-first viewpoint, and doing a lot of prototyping and testing on devices. I gave you a brief overview of Twitter Bootstrap and how not only can it deliver a lot of very useful elements like the accordion control, for instance, in our websites, but it provides, most importantly, from my perspective, a responsive web framework. So our sites are automatically viewable on a long and a large range of devices. And finally, I gave you a brief demo of a course companion that I created using Moodle and Twitter Bootstrap theme. So where to go next? If you're interested in mobile learning, if you're interested in using Twitter Bootstrap along with Moodle for mobile learning, here are a couple of resources that you might want to check out. Of course, on our iMoot session page, there's an open discussion forum that you're welcome to leave me any questions or comments after our session. I will be checking the forum. I've also set up for you your own special site, or mini site, if you will, for the our session. I'll just put the URL as well in the chat box for you because that'll make it easier for you to see. So with this site, you'll have the slides for the session, but you'll also have recommended books about mobile design, about mobile learning. You'll also have some recommended articles and videos to check out, and also information about Twitter Bootstrap and resources. And in addition, I have to highlight that Bass Brands is actually, sorry, my slide's a bit cut off. Bass Brands is presenting at iMoot as well. And he's got a session called Building with Bootstrap, Integrating Moodle with Bootstrap session on Sunday. I think you can even check out a pre-recording of that session as well. He did one on Thursday. There he talks a little bit more technically orientated about using Twitter Bootstrap with Moodle. But I think it might be a good complement to this session. So I'd really like to thank you for joining me with this session and open the floor up for any other comments or questions. I'm more than happy to try to answer anything that you have. Thank you. I really enjoyed this session. Thank you, everyone, for the great comments. I see a question here. Theme selector in 2.3.4. Yes, so the idea would be in Moodle 2.5, you would just have one theme selected, which would be the Bootstrap theme, and then not worry about defining tablet or Moodle or tablet or mobile, because everything will be handled by that one theme. So, Larry, I hope I answered your question there. Great, thank you. Just scanning here to see if there's any other questions or comments on the text. Oh, well, thank you very much for your kind comments. Thank you.
Hi Paul, Shane here. Just I'll jump in now and just thank you for that great presentation. I'm actually feeling very inspired, want to go play. So thank you for giving up your time and very much appreciated. And I don't want to kill the questions. Please feel free to put questions in the chat, everyone else. It's not ending the session. But thank you, Paul.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Shane. It was my pleasure for sure. And I'll stick around a little bit and to see if I can answer some other questions here. What about accessibility issues in Bootstrap? Yeah, you know what? That's a really good question. I do not know. That might be something that you could find out more about on the Twitter Bootstrap site itself. But I'm not aware of any certain accessibility issues with Bootstrap. Bootstrap skins. Actually, I think in Bass Brand's session, he's going to talk a little bit about this. There's a site called Bootswatch, I think, and it allows you to actually buy or use some free skins for Twitter Bootstrap. And I think in the Moodle base theme, or in the Moodle Twitter Bootstrap theme, pardon me, you can do something with Bootswatch skins. So that's something to check out. Bootswatch, I think that's what it's called. And it's either in there for Moodle 2.5 or something on the planning books for later on. Good, okay, great. I'm glad that answered your question. Oh, hi, Frank. Nice to see you. There we go. Thank you very much, Gareth. That's what I'm talking about, Bootswatch. Thank you. Any other questions before I wrap things up? Okay, well, thanks again, everybody, and have a good day or evening wherever you are. Thank you. Bye-bye.